people today. They could spend half their lives over 50. That's a lot of living. So it helps to have a wise friend and fierce defender in your corner. A friend like AARP. So your health lives longer.
This is just slow-mo karate?
Just slow-mo karate.
Your money lives longer.
I just bought that.
I just sold that.
And your happiness lives longer. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Join today.
Welcome to AARP Illinois' virtual event. It's so wonderful to have you with us. AARP is on a mission to connect with individuals across various communities, especially those aged 50 and above. We're here to listen, understand, and address the unique needs of you and your community as we age. Our goal is to enrich your experience by expanding our local activities, providing opportunities for you to discover and engage with all that life has to offer right here in your own community and virtually. As we journey through today's event, we invite you to consider joining our dedicated team of AARP volunteers. It's a chance to make a meaningful impact and help us better serve those 50 plus across the nation. Connect with us and be a part of this vibrant movement toward positive change. Welcome, and let's make this event both fun and transformative.
Good morning. I'm Lori Hendren, Senior Associate State Director at AARP Illinois, and I'm honored to welcome you to today's live Tele-Town Hall. This is hosted by AARP Illinois, and we are joined by State Representative Anna Moeller of the 43rd District in Illinois for a very important discussion on one of AARP's top legislative priorities, supporting Illinois' 1.3 million family caregivers and their older parents, spouses, and loved ones who rely on their care. So we want to thank you for being with us today. Unpaid family caregivers are truly the backbone of Illinois' fractured and outdated long-term care system, and their backs are breaking. Every day, family caregivers help their loved ones with bathing, dressing, meals, transportation, medical tasks, and so much more. Most work full or part-time jobs and are too often overwhelmed, stressed, and facing financial hardship due to the cost of caring. It's important to acknowledge that caregivers in Illinois contribute an outstanding 1.2 billion hours of care each year, with an estimated value of $17.70 per hour, totaling $21 billion annually. These hours represent more than tasks. They represent your dedication. Even in the midst of financial strains, you are caring and providing a lot out of pocket. These figures highlight the profound impact caregivers make, both in time and in financial sacrifice, underscoring the importance of recognizing and supporting their efforts. And that's why AARP Illinois is fighting hard to get support for family caregivers. One of our top priorities when it comes to state legislation in Illinois is establishing a income tax credit for family caregivers to help address the high cost of caring. Too many families are exhausted. Their own life savings may even face bankruptcy or just financial ruin trying to keep their older loved ones safe and at home. And so you're joining us today because we want to hear from you. This is an invaluable opportunity to hear directly from State Representative Moeller, ask questions, gain insight into AARP's current priorities for supporting family caregivers and their older parents, spouses, and loved ones. So simply, you do *3 on your telephone keypad, *3, and you will be prompted to join and speak with one of our distinguished staffers here at AARP. They will get your comments and questions, and we're going to bring you live on this call to speak directly with State Representative Anna Moeller. So without further ado, today is State Representative Anna Moeller. She represents Illinois' 43rd District, serves as the chairperson of the Appropriations, Health, and Human Services Committee. She is also a member of the House Healthcare License and Human Services Committee. She has been a strong and outspoken advocate for nursing home residents. She has championed many key policies for AARP to improve the quality of life of nursing home residents over the years. She has sponsored the Illinois Caregiver Portal, the virtual visitation legislation, both ensuring greater support and connectivity for caregivers and residents alike. Welcome, Representative Moeller. Do you have any opening words for all of our listening audience today?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Lori. Thank you to AARP for hosting this call, and thank you to everyone for joining us this morning to have this important conversation about how we can help families in Illinois take care of their loved ones living in their home and as they age in place. It's an honor to be here. It's been wonderful to work with AARP over the past decade, making sure that Illinois is a great place for seniors, the elderly, and their families. And looking forward to taking calls and answering questions about what we're working on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And if you're joining us, press *3 on your keypad, and we're going to elevate you in, get your questions and comments, and get you right into this conversation. So I want to just first go to kind of a question that's at hand. While our listeners get their questions submitted, one, we discussed earlier, right? Families face significant challenges in caring for their older parents, spouses, and loved ones. We have Illinois 1.3 million unpaid family caregivers. Representative Moeller, you have such a distinguished career in this field. Can you share with our listeners more about some of the measures you have passed regarding caregivers? One, let's talk about the caregiver portal. Let's talk about some of our nursing home residents' rights and protections you've worked on over the past decade with AARP.
Yes, thank you, Lori. This is an area of policy that's truly close to my heart. I was raised by my grandparents. I was very close with my great-grandmother. I saw my grandmother and my great-aunt struggle to take care of my great-grandmother when she had Alzheimer's, and how difficult it was to keep her at home as long as possible. But also what an act of love that was, for my grandmother and my great-aunt, for my great-grandmother. So even before becoming a lawmaker, seeing how families work to take care of their loved ones was something that was always, a part of my life. Once I became part of the legislature, this area of policy became very important in terms of making sure that our state is supporting families in taking care of their loved ones. And in doing that, we want to make sure that family members have access to information and resources that can help them as they work as caregivers in the home. The caregiver portal, which has been championed by AARP, is going to be that source of information for families across the state. So, when there's a family member that needs care, their loved ones will be able to go online, access the resources, whether it's food resources or respite care, or places that their loved one can go to get daily stimulation or get out into the community. They're going to have a one-stop location that they can go to access that information. I know how hard it can be trying to find all the resources that are available and knowing where to turn to get help. And this caregiver portal is going to be that place where it's going to make it a lot easier for people to access information and the resources that they need to make their lives easier and to make their loved ones' lives better. So we're very excited about that. We're working with the Department on Aging to create this portal, and we expect that to be live in the next couple years. We also mentioned nursing home care. Unfortunately, we know that often there is a time when it is too much to keep a loved one in the home. If they're facing dementia or Alzheimer's or physical limitations that make being at home impossible, or if family members can no longer provide that 24-hour care. And so we know that there is an important place for our long-term care facilities in Illinois. We want to make sure that anyone who is in a long-term care facility in Illinois is treated with dignity and given the care that they need so that they can stay healthy and comfortable and live out the remainder of their lives in a loving, safe environment. And unfortunately, we've had situations in our long-term care facilities in the past where we know that our loved ones were not getting the optimal care that they needed for a variety of factors, and one major factor was just not having enough staff on hand to provide that care. So working with the AARP, the Department of Health Care and Family Services, and other advocates in this area, we passed landmark legislation 3 years ago that requires all of our long-term care facilities to meet standing staffing metrics, staffing requirements, in order to be eligible for full funding from the state. And based on that legislation, we have seen an increase in staffing in our long-term care facilities. And we were excited that the legislation that we passed in Illinois was actually used as a model at the federal level, ensuring that nursing homes and long-term care facilities across the country are having to meet these staffing requirements. We're a little bit nervous that these regulations may be rolled back with this new administration, with the Trump administration. But here in Illinois, because we passed our major reform bill for nursing homes, Illinois elderly residents and seniors and people with disabilities who are in long-term care facilities will be protected. And as long as I'm in the legislature, and I know as long as AARP is around, we're going to continue to fight to make sure that our nursing homes are safe places for our seniors.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. And also joining us today is State Representative Susanna Ness of the 66th State House District. She is also a dedicated advocate for working caregivers and aging policy. She is the chief sponsor of AARP's Caring for Caregivers Tax Credit. And I'll have you know that Representative Moeller has carried this many years and been a strong advocate, and she's also a sponsor. Representative Ness is going to be leading our efforts, much ready financial relief for Illinois family caregivers, and she is also in a position with the House Human Services Committee. I want to welcome Representative Ness to the call. We welcome you. Hello.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on this rainy day.
Yes, well, thank you. Representative Ness, I want to go to a question we have. Given that 9 in 10 caregivers, or over about 87% of Illinois voters we polled, express a strong desire for the Illinois state government to provide financial support to help cover their expenses, why is providing an income tax credit for family caregivers you're sponsoring so important for listeners on this call?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Well, one thing for me, for sure, is what I like about this bill is that it puts money directly back into people's pockets, and it does it in a way that, you know, families don't have to itemize and create a bunch of deductions and make tax processes even more complicated. It's just a flat credit. If you're a caregiver, you know, caring for a loved one in your home, you'll qualify for it. So, and while it's a pilot this year, I think that it's something that we at the state level can do outside of all of the other things that are happening with the federal government and everything else. This is one thing that the state of Illinois can do directly to put funds back into people's pockets.
That's wonderful. So thank you. So anyone who can hear my voice, press *3 on your keypad. You're going to be elevated to talk with our staff, and you're going to be able to go live. So right now we are going to go live with Wendy from Evanston. One moment. Let me get you live, Wendy. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Wendy. Are you there? And what is your question for our lawmakers today? Hi, Wendy. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
What are your two questions?
Well, I was wondering where the funds were going to come from. When my parents' age, and she had Alzheimer's, and he was just 102 and a half, I put them, I took care of them financially. But I mean, where would the funds come from to take care of all these folks?
Sure, great question. Okay, so I'm going to first bring this to Representative Moeller, the question, and then I'll let Representative Ness talk about the benefits of the Caregiver Income Tax Credit. Representative Moeller.
Sure. Thank you for that question, Wendy. So as a state, we do budget funds for caretakers or for caretaking activities in the community through the community care program and through the Department on Aging. So I would encourage you to reach out to your local area agencies on aging or local organizations that provide those. And there should be some programs available. That is part of the and this is part of the reason why we are moving forward with this caregiver portal, so that there will be one place that you can go, depending on what your needs are, to find those resources. But as a state, we do pay for through our budget and through some federal funds, programs that help support families to keep their loved ones at home.
Thank you. And then also for listeners, if you want to write this number down, as an Illinois resident, we have the Illinois Department of Aging Senior Helpline. That number is 1-800-252-8966, 1-800-252-8966. And that's going to be your first stop for finding resources statewide and locally during your caregiver journey. State Representative Ness, why don't you tell us a little bit how the income tax credit for family caregivers you have up before the legislature would help and support family caregivers?
Sure. So a tax credit's a little bit different than some of the funding that Representative Moeller talked about. These are revenues that come from our general revenue fund. It would be subtracted from the income tax that people pay into the state. Basically, it means that families in caregiving who qualify, you keep more money back, for yourselves. And the reason why I think this is really important is because the care that families are doing, as you heard in the opener, it is actually a benefit to the state that people are able to care for their loved ones at home, providing these services that the state then doesn't have to try to provide, or the federal government or whoever. So by having a little bit of that money from our income tax held back and being able to go directly to families, I believe it's a small price to pay for what we get as that benefit. So, knowing that the average annual out-of-pocket cost for family caregivers is around $7,200, a $500 tax credit's not a lot, but it's something. And as we see the benefit of this in the state, and as our own financial situation improves in the state, it's an area that we could increase as time goes on.
Wonderful. Thank you. And right, so we did a poll in August, and 93% of Illinois caregivers have spent their own money to provide care, and that was at a bare minimum of $300. So we hear you, we see you, and we recognize you, and that's why we're working with these distinguished lawmakers to continue making a difference for you. So we're going to go over to our next caller, Hetty. Are you there with us? From Willamette.
Yes.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Being in the health industry, I ran an adult day services for 17 years. And I was frankly disappointed in the fact that our government, just in general, has not supported adult day services as they could to extend the life of the individual and quality at home. I know it's nothing to do with what the question that I answered, but you had answered previously. But I'm very concerned. In Europe, for example, adult day services are all over the place, and the government in each country pays 100% of that. And I was so energetic when I first started that perhaps day services for disabled, PM the hardest part, day services for when the caregivers in the home need to prepare meals, etc., and then night services for people with dementia who have a time difference and could be provided for activities at night, and certainly cheaper than having a full-time caregiver or a private caregiver. I have attended meetings. I have certainly come forth in saying that I will do everything possible to get this off the ground. I worked for a social service agency that put in a lot of money. It was based on CCP which is, the Medicaid portion, and it included transportation portal to portal. Why don't we have enough of this in Illinois? And, even if you live in wealthy suburbs, the activity level of a person and the quality of making someone, even with dementia, feel that the life has purpose would be a great step in the right direction, regardless of the amount of financial, help that they need.
Yeah. I hear you. Great question. So I'm going to first start. So that was a great question. So she talked about CCP, which is a community care program here in Illinois, and we offered a number, 1-800-252-8966, which could be your first onboarding to see if you're eligible for the home and community-based services. So I'm going to take this question to Representative Ness. What is the help, and do we have more help on the horizon through the home and community-based services program?
Yes. First of all, I agree with everything the caller just said, and we are behind on that for sure. And so I'm just going to talk about a few of the things that I'm familiar with in the community where I live. So I live in McHenry County. I represent Northern Kane and Southern McHenry County. Something that McHenry County did some years back is they created, through referendum, a senior care Senior Services Grant Commission, which is overseen by county board members. It generates a small amount of levy funds from property taxes that go directly into senior care services. And locally, most of the day programs that I'm familiar with all receive funding from that source. So that's one that was more of a community, local community effort. So you can lobby your local counties or townships, wherever your levy comes through for these kinds of services. But I would start with the county to do something similar. So that's number one. Number two, the area agencies on aging that Representative Moeller mentioned, every region has one. If you know which region you're in, you can go onto the map and look. I believe the name is now called Age Guide, but you can also do it through the portal through the state to find out. That's the other place where this funding goes. So I think what's going to happen, and what I'd like to see happen and work on here in Springfield, as we see those needs increasing, if there's more of a need for day services, especially among memory care, then we have to make sure that our funding follows the need. And so that's something that I think we're going to be paying a lot of attention of, this cycle, next cycle, ongoing. So I know that those are something, not a fully complete answer, but definitely some of the areas that I'm looking at in particular, and I'm looking forward to working on here in Springfield.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's go to Tony. Hi, Tony. Are you there? What's your question? Hi, Tony. What's your question?
Hi. Yes, I am. And first of all, thank you for making this available. I'm curious if the bill that's pending requires the caregiver to have any certifications, like a certified nurse assistant or anything like that. And that's really my first question.
Great question, Tony. Representative Ness.
Thank you, Tony, for the question. What the certification would be done through the Department of Aging and DHS. The state has a process where we identify people who are eligible in this category. So it's something that is already done, though the bill, we're still working out some of those details so that the Department of Revenue can be sure that people who are seeking the tax credit are in fact eligible. But that's a great question.
Wonderful. So thank you. So if you're joining us, *3 to be connected with the AARP staff to elevate you right to our lawmakers. Let's do a poll question. We want to keep hearing from you. Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. Do you believe the Illinois state government provides enough support for unpaid family caregivers? Do you believe the Illinois state government provides enough support for unpaid family caregivers? Press 1 for yes, 2 for no. We're going to share those results shortly. But in the meantime, let's continue our conversation. So we're going to go to Deborah. Hi, Deborah. What's your question? Hi, good morning. And what is your question?
Yes, me and my husband live together, but he has an aging mother that's 91, and she don't really want anyone coming to her home. She don't want, other outside people or stuff like that. I don't know. I guess it's just she feels like she may get somebody that may not do her right or whatever. And my husband is doing everything for her because he's the only son. And what I was wondering, do they have anything to help him with the money and the time and stuff that he's doing to help with his mom? And also, in our taxes, is there anything on there that you can get as a tax credit or something like that when we claim our taxes?
Wonderful question, Deborah. Thank you so much. First, I'm going to go to Representative Moeller.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you to you and your husband for what you're doing for your mother-in-law. I know that it's not easy. So I think in response to your second question, Representative Ness's bill is aiming to help families like yours financially with being able to claim the tax credit if you do pay income taxes to help defray some of the costs of taking care of your mother-in-law. So that's what we're trying to get past the finish line here with that. In terms of other assistance, as we've said, there are community-based organizations out there that can help take some of the strain off. And Hetty, who I think eloquently described the programs that she's worked with and why they're so important, described one of them, and that's the adult day services, to give your mother-in-law an opportunity to get out of the home and maybe give you and your husband, some time, a little bit of a break from caretaking. The number that Lori has been reciting, the 1-800-252-8966, should be able to link you to some of those services that are available in your area. But there are programs out there, and Meals on Wheels, if that's something that that your mother-in-law would qualify to help take some of the burden off of your family in terms of paying for meals, the adult day services, the respite services. Those programs are out there, and I would encourage you to call that number and find out what's available in your area.
Wonderful. Thank you. And for all of you that engaged in our poll, we want to thank you. So the question was, do you believe Illinois state government provides enough support for unpaid family caregivers? We had an overwhelming number said no at 82% and yes at 18%. So let's get back to another caller. We're going to go to Claudia.
Yes.
Hi, Claudia. You are with us. What is your question for State Representative Moeller and State Representative Ness?
Yes, please. Thank you for receiving the call. And I'm just curious as to when this bill might be passed, that we get state credit on state income tax. How long will this take before we might get some help?
Great question. I'm going to go to State Representative Ness on this.
Boy, I love these questions because it means I need to do my homework. I believe it goes into effect next year. If it passes this year, it would be eligible for next year. But I am not 100% sure. So I will have to get back to you. Oh, Yep, effective January 1st, 2026. So it would apply to next year's taxes.
Right. And right now, for the caller, just let you know, this bill was filed in the House, and it is being worked on in the House of Representatives. And we're excited by the energy and the momentum behind it, but we still got a long way to go. So keep in touch with AARP as we continue to mobilize and seek your support as we educate our lawmakers and continue having conversations on the importance of this measure. For most voters in Illinois, 89% support a state income tax credit for caregivers. And this is across all party lines, which is powerful. When we polled, a majority of voters who identify as Republicans, Independents, Democrats support income tax for caregivers because we are all probably one at some time in our journey. So we want to thank you for that. So next, we're going to go on to Arthur. Or actually, we're going to go to Rose. Rose, are you with us? And what's your question?
My question
Hi,
is
Rose.
this. Hi. Good morning. Good afternoon. Anyway, my question is this. My husband and I, we're both middle income, so we are on a budget. Now, my social worker that I had spoken to, I was out. My husband is independent mostly, and I am with him 24/7. And all I would need is like a respite, maybe for one day a week. And the social worker says, "Oh, but you don't qualify because we are both middle income." And so it appears to me a lot of the benefits, especially living in Cook County, apply basically for the low income. And that's really frustrating. Now we file our taxes jointly. How do we file jointly our taxes to show that I am his 24/7 caregiver?
That's a great. Thank you so much for all you're doing, Rose. We hear you and appreciate you. I'm going to go to Representative Moeller to give us some insight for our caller.
Thank you, and thank you for what you do as well in caring for your loved one. I understand your frustration, and we take that into consideration when we are preparing our budgets to ensure that that we're maximizing access to many of these programs to as many families as possible. Unfortunately, we are limited in some ways by federal funding guidelines and regulations. And that oftentimes dictates the availability of programs. And as an example, we do have programs that are funded through the Medicaid program, which is a federal-state partnership. And there are income thresholds that are linked to that program. It's helpful for the state because we're able to bring in federal revenue and federal dollars to help pay for those programs. But in order to access that money, we have to follow federal regulations, and those are often linked to income. So we do recognize that. We do try to fund programs that are available to all families, regardless of income. But we have scarce resources here at the state as well, and in order to maximize resources, oftentimes we have to follow those income guidelines.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. So for all of you that are joining us, we're going to do one more poll question because we're here to learn and to listen from you. So the question is, do you support providing an income tax credit for family caregivers in Illinois? One is going to be for yes and support, or 2 for no and oppose. So again, do you support or oppose providing a state income tax credit to family caregivers in Illinois? Support is 1 and oppose is 2. And again, AARP with the 2 honorable state representatives, we are sponsoring the Caring for Caregivers Act that will assist family caregivers who incur expenses while taking care of their loved one, from assistance to home modifications, financial support for care services, and assistive care technology such as hearing aids and wheelchairs. This is all part of us hearing and recognizing the challenges and the strain you have, and step in the right direction to offer some relief. So as you all take that poll, we're going to go to some of our callers. Let me see. We're going to go to, I believe, Tarvis, are you there? And what is your question or comment for the elected officials today? Good morning.
Good morning to the whole panel, and it's Tavares, like the 70s group.
Tavares. Thank you, sir. I love it.
Okay, my question, I'm having the hardest time trying to get a ramp installed in my mother's townhome. The association, she pays the association fees. They told her that's up to you. You could build a store in front of your house. We have nothing to do with it. So they're not respecting the Disability Act. The problem that I have, if the house catches on fire, she's not going to be able to get out because she has MS. She's riding around on the scooter, and that's the only thing that I need. I'm trying to keep her spirits up because she feel like she's a prisoner because it's a hard time getting her out the house because we don't have a ramp. So I'm literally picking her up, putting her in the chair, wheeling her down. So it's like that's the issue that I'm having. Is there any nonprofit organizations? I live in Will County, University Park, Illinois. I just got the number, the Department of Aging. I'm going to try them, and then I even called 1-800-RAMP, and they tried to overcharge. Like Medicare, Medicaid is not covering it. So that's the only question that I have, and thank you for this, and I desperately need that tax relief. And thank you for Addis. I love Addis, but yeah, that's the only question I have.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you're doing. We're going to go to Representative Ness. I'll let you answer this one.
Thank you. Thank you, caller, for that question. And I'm sorry to hear about how hard it is for you to get this done for your mom. And it takes a psychological toll, too, which we haven't talked much about on this call, but is a whole other area of mental health services and how we help people keep up their positive mental health as they undergo these changes. I'm going to make a recommendation that you reach out to your state representative, and I'm not sure who that is where you live, but after calling the number, the Area Agency on Aging, I can tell you that a lot of the agencies locally that we work with, they have vendor lists and lists of contractors that are either reputable or known to work at a discount with people in exactly your situation. And then, statewide, I'm not aware of a registry like that, but I know that we've worked with local agencies on behalf of our constituents to help connect them to those resources. So give your call a rep, and if they don't, call my office. We'll help you.
And I think we may have a little of Will County State Representative Moeller. Is that? No, we may have changed. Is that a little bit of your area?
No.
No.
But that was a great
Okay.
recommendation. That was a great recommendation from Representative Ness.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then I would also call the senior helpline as well, 1-800-252-8966. So just to be able to connect with folks to see if there's some help. So our question we had, thank you all for pushing the buttons and letting us know your thoughts. Do you support or oppose providing a state income tax credit to family caregivers in Illinois? And for all you listeners there, you came in with an overwhelming voice. At 97%, you are supporting. So thank you. And quick math will also say 3% is opposing, but I'm hoping you're still open to that conversation. So we are at 11:25, and we are doing great. Let's do a couple more callers, and then we're going to have some final comments from our distinguished elected officials here. So let us go to Doris. Doris, you're going to be live with us.
Yes.
Hi, Doris. What's
Good
your question?
morning. My call is, I'm not familiar with how do you go by getting assistance for someone to look after a family member in your home, and the person has light dementia, but she needs someone to run errands for her and to assist her in going to the doctor. So how do you go about that?
Okay, well, thank you so much, Doris. I'm going to let State Representative Moeller, since I messed up on her Will County, which is not her district. Representative Moeller, can you answer Doris's question, please?
Sure. I guess, Doris, can you clarify a little bit what you're asking?
You know what? We just lost her on the call, but I think she was looking for just assistance at home, and where would that start for her for home and community-based services?
Okay. Yeah. So we've been talking about the senior helpline. That would be a good place to start, 252-8966. Also, as we've mentioned, there are community-based organizations throughout the state, and Area Agencies on Aging is a nice little umbrella organization that can connect people to more specific community organizations depending on what kind of assistance is needed. So I would start there.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we're going to go to Charles. Charles, you're live with us. What's your question?
Yes, hi. I'd simply like to know what it is that would qualify a person for the credit. Like, how do you prove to the state that you deserve the credit?
Great question. I'm going to give that to Representative Ness, if you want to answer that one for Charles.
Can you please repeat the question for me? I want to make sure.
Sure.
Right.
His question was, what do you do to certify your caregiving expenses to make sure, I would imagine, so we're not having any fraud, but how do you validate that, and what's going to be the process?
Yeah, so that actually was the conversation that I had last week with the Department of Revenue, who is the agency that would facilitate this credit, just like you do with the IRS or any other tax body. If you are eligible, as per the guidelines through the Department of Human Services, if they deem you eligible for that, and all of the services we've been talking about on this call, many of them, to get them, you need to go through this eligibility process. So if you've gone through that process and you're already deemed eligible through that process, then it's really a simple thing where the agency, the Department of Revenue receives a list from people that have already been deemed eligible, and then they go off of that. So that's the way that this tax credit would be handled. And, we trust that the system is working pretty well in that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And for all, we're talking about House Bill 1369. That's the Caring for Caregivers Income Tax Credit. So this has been an absolutely wonderful conversation on behalf of AARP Illinois. I want to thank you to everyone for taking part in today's Tele-Town Hall Forum, giving us your time, your comments, and sharing your personal stories as AARP continues to advocate and support family caregivers and their loved ones. We've had a great discussions with our honorable guests, State Representative Moeller and State Representative Ness, on the importance of supporting family caregivers in Illinois and talking about the services that are available. So, Representative Moeller, thank you again for being with us today. I know both of your schedules are very busy. As we approach the end of our call, would you like to share any final thoughts or follow-up of what we've discussed today for listeners?
Sure. Thank you. And thank you again for including me in this important conversation, and for all of the callers who called in and or are listening to the discussion. My final thought to you is, is to reach out to your local state rep, state senator. If any of these issues resonate with you, if you are needing assistance, as Representative Ness recommended with a previous caller, don't hesitate to reach out to your local legislators. We have offices and staff that are here to help you and help connect you to services and resources and assistance. So don't be shy in reaching out. I would also encourage you to reach out to your legislator if you support Representative Ness's bill and if you support increasing funding for the programs that we talked about today. It really means a lot when constituents call in and let us know how they feel about a bill, and your voice really does matter. So don't hesitate to reach out in that regard as well. And thank you for all that you do for your loved ones. And we are trying to make Illinois the best place in the country to take care of our elderly and our seniors, and a great place to age in place. So thank you to AARP for hosting these conversations and for all that they do on behalf of seniors in Illinois.
Thank you. Once again, AARP sincerely thanks Representative Moeller for her time and leadership in the State House as we continue our advocacy for family caregivers. Representative Ness, we are so grateful to have you with us as well. Before you wrap up, any closing comments or any thoughts on any of our questions today for our over 6,000 listeners who have dedicated their time with us today.
Thank you so much, Lori, and to AARP for your support and for entrusting me with this important bill. I feel very committed to it. I think the questions on the call and what I really take away from today's call is so much of the importance of why we've done the things we've done. The one-stop portal, making sure that you have one number to call to start to navigate all of the services that are out there. It's just that, as many of you have identified, it's getting connected to them. It's understanding and knowing where they are. It's knowing what's available in your local community and the best ways to access those. So I love these kinds of calls. I write down every question because it reminds me that these are the things that really matter to people. And it's my intention to continue working with Representative Moeller, who's a great champion. I mean, she's been a great champion in this area as well. I think I've sponsored and voted for every one of the bills that she talked about since I've been here. So we will continue doing the hard work and fighting here at the state to ensure that we are taking care of people in your situations, especially because we want people to stay and age in place in our great state. So I look forward to working with AARP as we continue to do that. So thank you so much.
And thank you, Representative Ness, for your leadership on behalf of all the family caregivers and AARP in our state. So across party lines, Republican, Democrat, Independent, voters 50 and older support policies to help Illinois families care for their loved ones. With 89% who support a state income tax credit for caregivers, the time is now for the Caring for Caregivers Act in Illinois. So we do encourage you, reach out to your lawmaker. Tell them your story. Tell them how an income tax credit would help you as you balance the financial strains and love of caregiving. To our AARP members joining us by phone, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for participating in this important discussion in support of family caregivers and their loved ones. We apologize if we were not able to answer your questions during this session. We want to thank, again, Representative Ness and Representative Moeller giving us their time during session while everything's hectic in the State House. They are here with us, and that is accolades to their commitment to family caregivers and all those that are 50 plus across the state. We thank you. For all of those of you that are with us and do need home and community-based services, family caregiver seeking assistance, call 1-800-252-8966. That is the Illinois Department of Aging Senior Helpline. That is your first step. For family caregivers with us today, AARP has a lot of free resources and information available at aarp.org/caregiving, or you can just Google AARP and caregiving. So thank you. This ends today's Tele-Town Hall. Have a great day, and we appreciate you. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.